Good evening. I'm Katerina Georgieva. This is CBC Windsor News. Thanks for being with us. U.S. President Donald Trump says 25% tariffs on Canadian imports will start tomorrow. This despite his own top aide complimenting Canada's efforts in tackling concerns around the common border. But Ottawa says it is ready to hit back with billions in retaliatory measures when and if the levies do kick in. Olivia Stefanovic has the very latest.
On the eve of the latest tariff deadline.
We don't know what's coming tomorrow. I'm not even sure if President Trump knows what's coming tomorrow.
Confusion from Canadian officials.
I'd love to say that I know all the answers. I don't, and I wish I had a better answer for Canadians and those whose jobs are at risk.
I have no news to report on that front. The fact is that our government's first duty is to try and avoid these tariffs.
The Trump administration previously said the levies could be all but avoided.
The Mexicans and the Canadians have done a nice job on the border, meaning you have illegal crossings at their lowest level ever.
But the U.S. president himself says the plan to impose sweeping tariffs on his top two trading partners is moving full steam ahead.
On the tariffs, is there any room left for Canada and Mexico to make a deal before midnight?
No room left for Mexico or for Canada. No, the tariffs, they're all set. They go into effect tomorrow.
As Donald Trump added yet another reason for his decision.
Tomorrow, tariffs 25% on Canada and 25% on Mexico, and that'll start. So they're going to have a tariff. So what they have to do is build their car plants, frankly, and other things in the United States, in which case they have no tariffs.
If Trump is imposing tariffs, we're ready.
Canada's Foreign Affairs Minister says Ottawa is prepared with a $155 billion retaliatory response.
There's a level of unpredictability and chaos that comes out of the Oval Office, and we will be dealing with it.
The decision that's been announced, I think, is deeply regrettable and will have a very significant impact, not just on Canadians, but also on Americans. And so the dialogue will continue. But we are prepared to respond as required.
Unless he changes his mind, Trump's first round of tariffs are expected to take effect at midnight, marking the biggest increase to trade barriers that Canada has ever seen. Olivia Stefanovic, CBC News, Ottawa.
Auto workers have also been holding their breath in anticipation of what Trump will do tomorrow. I spoke with a few of them before Trump's announcement today about what it's been like dealing with this shadow. Workers at the plant are already describing a painful and tense atmosphere under the cloud of uncertainty. Among the 4,500 workers here is Jason Mercier. He's worked at the plant for 25 years and says this has been an emotional roller coaster.
It's very unnerving, to be honest with you. Me and my wife both work at the plant. It's causing a bit of mental anguish within our workplace. Some people don't know what to make of it, and so they're struggling with it. They're making plans to do other things.
Derek Gungle has been a line worker for 10 years.
Oh, it's unreal. We never know what we're going to be expecting one day to the next. We can't plan for any future production. We can't plan for week to week. I think anybody that is involved in automotive or anything that has anything to do with cross-border traffic right now is at risk of losing their job.
Trump has gone back and forth on tariffs and has also promised additional auto tariffs in April, claiming that Canada stole the auto industry. For auto worker Kathy Mackay, it all feels personal.
I've been very upset. I'm a very proud Canadian. My parents both served in the military. And to have him characterize Canada as being anything but the best partner, friend, and neighbor that the U.S. has ever had completely is a slap in my face.
It's a death knell for this entire industry.
Right now, Gungle has no backup plan if he loses his job other than saving up for a rainy day. Mercier is also at a loss when he thinks about the worst-case scenario, though the union, Unifor, gives him hope. In the meantime, the unknowns cast a shadow.
There's nobody really going around telling us, oh, everything's going to be okay. Nobody's telling us that. So at the end of the day, all the worry lies on our shoulders as workers.
Beyond the plant itself, the workers also worry about the trickle-down effect of tariffs over the whole city and how it will impact the local economy. We've heard leaders say that it would be catastrophic and an outcome everyone here would like to avoid. We've been hearing time and time again, when it comes to the auto industry, the impact of the tariffs, once imposed, would be devastating and swift. We spoke with Brian Kingston with the Canadian Vehicle Manufacturers Association. He says the business of making cars in North America is so intertwined that tariffs will mean layoffs and price hikes.
By putting in place a tariff of this scope, it will put extreme stress on the supply chain. Automakers don't have other suppliers that they can find overnight to bring those components in. So the result is potential stoppages in production. And of course, tariffs are taxes. So prices will go up for vehicles for not just Americans, but Canadians and Mexicans.
We've got Colette Kennedy. Colette, there she is. With our first look at weather. Colette, how's it looking into the evening?
Just to get the very last minute details for you. Yeah, we had one frontal boundary that passed by. This is the one that's going to be more significant with the milder air behind that. So that is our warm front coming in now with a little bit of mixing possible through the overnight, but really with the temperatures being so mild, we're going to be talking about some rain showers. And when I say so mild, a high tomorrow up to 10 degrees. Not kidding about that after a cooler weekend that we've experienced. So that southerly flow coming into play. Now the precipitation tonight, tomorrow will be relatively light in nature. That changes a little bit into Wednesday, and it's not even that it's so heavy, it's that it's going to be enough with the milder conditions that we could get into some localized flooding and maybe even a few embedded thunderstorms. Yes, in early March. So all the details on this coming on up. And I'll be here.
You'll be here. Thanks so much, Colette. Appreciate it. For months now, Doug Ford has promised a strong counter-response to U.S. tariffs if they do materialize. Queen's Park reporter Lorenda Redekop has that part of the tariff story.
Premier Doug Ford spoke at a mining conference in Toronto. A main topic, the looming deadline from the U.S. on tariffs, as he took reporter questions for the first time since his election win.
If they want to try to annihilate Ontario, I will do everything, including cut off their energy, with a smile on my face.
He says he'd like every other province to do the same.
They rely on our energy. They need to feel the pain. They want to come at us hard, we're going to come back twice as hard.
He acknowledges it's the federal government leading Canada's response, but supports hitting back with equal counter tariffs, removing U.S. alcohol from LCBO shelves, ensuring $30 billion in procurement deals don't go to U.S. companies, and killing a deal with Starlink to provide internet in rural areas.
We're going to cancel Starlinks right away from Elon Musk. Not that $100 million makes a difference for them, but it's principle.
Later, Ford went on a U.S. network with another counter-tariff promise.
I will stop shipments going into the U.S. for nickel. It will shut down manufacturing because 50% of the nickel you use is coming out of Ontario. The market is going to go downhill faster than the American bobsled team. It's going to be an absolute disaster for both countries.
Ford also predicts auto plants on both sides of the border could shut down within 5 days after tariffs are added, with parts traveling back and forth multiple times. In Windsor, it's left auto workers worried and uncertain.
Could throw us into a layoff. It could, the economy could crash. If the economy crashes, you know darn well, big ticket items like autos are the first on the chopping list.
It's almost like they're shooting themselves in the foot as well. What is truly a Canadian automobile versus what is truly an American automobile? They're so intertwined, you can't tell them apart anymore.
Premier Ford also wants more people buying made-in-Canada goods, encouraging store owners to help.
Every retail store, when you go look at the shelf talker, it has the price. We need to see a Canadian flag on that price.
He says first he's asking politely, but that he could legislate this. It's unclear, though, if legislation would stick. A court intervened after Ford required gas stations to display an anti-carbon tax message during his first term. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Local organizations have been collaborating in recent weeks to try and prepare for tariffs. The Economic Trade Task Force is co-chaired by both the local Chamber of Commerce and Invest Windsor Essex. And together, their goal is to be a source of information for local businesses and to advocate to higher-ups on behalf of them to make sure that they get funding and support if this does indeed kick in. I spoke with the president of the local Chamber of Commerce about what's going through his mind following Trump's latest announcement.
You know what the crazy thing is? Even though he said it's happening tomorrow, I still don't know if it'll happen tomorrow. It seems as though that with any tweet, any emotion that he decides that he wants to have, any way the wind's going to blow could change this. But if this does actually come into force tomorrow globally across all goods, needless to say, it's going to be a challenging time in Windsor, Essex, and on the U.S. side of the border.
What's your message to businesses that are watching this and are thinking, my goodness, what's going to happen to us tomorrow?
Yeah, that's a tough one. What I would say is, making sure that we're doing everything we possibly can to ensure that our processes are as smooth as possible, making sure that we can be as flexible as possible where we can. It's going to be very difficult for a company to all of a sudden pick up and change their suppliers, but, being creative, trying to figure out different ways in which to operate. But beyond that, it's something that it's really hard to message right now. It quite honestly is. And if I told you that it was easy to say, it's going to be X amount of weeks, X amount of months, X amount of days, and here's what it's going to affect, that certainty would definitely help businesses because then they could plan for it. But right now, there is no planning for uncertainty. There is no end goal. There is no end timeline. So if it were a 1 month or 6 weeks or 3 years type timeline, at least businesses could plan. In this case, without having any certainty on anything, it is very, very difficult for businesses to weather that storm.
How have you been feeling navigating all this?
At the end of the day, I've been in this role for about 5 weeks now with the Chamber of Commerce. I think the messaging that I've been able to say from the Chamber of Commerce perspective, we haven't changed. We've always said shop locally first, look at your network first, look at the folks that are down the street and around the corner to purchase from. So our messaging hasn't really changed. From a personal perspective, it's heavy. Right? As much as I and the members of the task force and Invest Windsor Essex want to represent the business, and we're going to as much as we can, and we're going to fight for them and spend as many hours as necessary to make sure that their voices and messaging is heard, and we can battle for them. At the end of the day, I'm not producing widgets tomorrow. I'm not the one that needs to ship a product to the United States and not know what's going to happen when the products get there, or what happens if counter tariffs happen. So, needless to say, it's been pretty heavy. But what I can say is that the folks around my table with Invest Windsor Essex, we're fighting as much as we possibly can. We're spending as many hours as we possibly can to make sure that the voice of Windsor Essex businesses in our community is being well represented at the highest levels and across the world. So we'll continue to do that as long as this takes.
Tributes are flowing in, honoring the life of longtime University of Windsor political science professor Lloyd Brown-John.
Well, I see it as an error. I think a politician has to go in with vigor, a belief he's going to win, he's going to fight.
Brown-John was also a frequent CBC contributor over the years. He never completely retired from academia, and his lifelong pursuit of learning going as far as founding the Canterbury Elder College in 2011, which provides lifelong learning opportunities for adults aged 55 and older. Brown-John is survived by his wife Marilyn, 2 daughters, 6 grandchildren, and 2 great-grandchildren. Lloyd Brown-John was 84. Our condolences to his family. A live look outside there. As Colette Kennedy mentioned, rain is on the way, and there is a special weather statement actually in effect for Wednesday. So Colette will be back later in the program, and she will talk us through all of that. But when we come back, we will also have some more local news. Ukrainians in Windsor are reacting after that spat at the White House between Trump and Ukraine's president. So we will have all of that after the break. Stay on with us. Welcome back. It's not just Donald Trump's move on tariffs that's making news, but his handling of the war in Ukraine, especially the U.S. president's fractured relationship with that country's leader, Volodymyr Zelensky. Our Jacob Barker spoke with local Ukrainians about their hopes and their fears as war in their homeland drags on.
Members of Windsor's Ukrainian community are shocked and frustrated after a spat broke out between Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky and the U.S. President and Vice President on Friday. It comes as concerns swirl that the new American administration may be siding more with Russian interests than those of their Ukrainian ally.
Your country's in big trouble.
On Friday, at a meeting in D.C. meant to finalize a mineral deal between Ukraine and the U.S., Zelensky was instead asked to leave after a harsh conversation in which the vice president called Zelensky disrespectful and Trump told him he was gambling with World War III.
I feel it's very, very bad. Something is coming really, really bad.
Karina Nikashna fled Ukraine in 2022 and now lives in Windsor. She says she thinks Zelensky was being polite in the meeting.
It's all game. I understand it too. But the main thing is about people who are actually dying there right now, like in the process. So this is very heartbreaking for all the Ukrainians, I would say, because we show that we're very resilient and we want to fight and we still have hopes, although we lost so many good people right now, and young generation especially.
Others who saw the meeting found it frustrating.
You don't invite someone to sign a peace contract and then turn around and berate him in front of the world.
Talks in Europe took a different tone over the weekend. Leaders there threw their support behind Zelensky, including Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. But Nikashna says she thinks the U.S. is needed in any agreement that goes forward.
Unfortunately, their economics and like their power and tool, like the amount of, I don't know, materials they have to actually produce the weapons and all of that. Of course, we would definitely benefit from keep working with them and like trying to at least like get some help from them.
I'm not very hopeful right now. I think the rest of the world has to step up a little bit and make their decisions and their feelings known, because Ukraine can't do it alone. There's just no way.
Since that disastrous Oval Office meeting, Zelensky has said that he believes that U.S. support for Ukraine remains strong. A deal to end the war, however, he believes is still far, far away. Jacob Barker, CBC News, Windsor.
You might remember a heartbreaking story from last July. Just 3 days into his retirement, longtime Windsor mechanic and garage owner Glenn Willis suffered a brain aneurysm. Retirement then turned into months fighting for his life in hospital and rehab. But we are happy to report that 8 months later, he is doing a lot better. And in fact, he's back to work part-time. CBC paid him a visit at that auto shop and asked him what he remembers about his health scare.
I went home and I felt really not too well at all. Where I had the worst heartburn I've ever had in my life. I was literally laying in bed, rolling around, like holding my stomach. My wife, she called EMS right away. She knew something was wrong. They took me to Hotel Dieu. The next thing I remember is waking up a week later. They sent me to Prince Road for rehabilitation at Prince Road. And I can't say enough about those people. I wouldn't be standing here right now if it wasn't for them, because they did a terrific job at the rehab there. The outpouring from the customers in the community was just unbelievable. If it wasn't for that, I don't think I would have recovered as fast as I did.
He's like, Pete, I'd like to come help you. I'm not ready to retire just yet. I did it, but I think I need to get out back in the open and keep my mind working and talking to people. I might miss the customers, and I says, hey, we'll give it a try. So here we are.
I don't want to ever go through that again, believe that. It was a second time I've cheated death, so it gives you a whole new appreciation for life.
So happy Glenn is doing so much better. Do you have a story that you think we should cover? Well, send us your ideas. You can reach us anytime by text at 519-984-2051. You can also email us at windsor@cbc.ca. And stay with us. We're going to have Colette Kennedy with us right after the break. She'll talk us through about all that rain that's coming in, because on Wednesday it's actually listed as a special weather statement by Environment Canada. So she'll have all the details right after the break. Stay with us. Colette Kennedy is back with us now, and she is there indeed. Colette, we know that there's rainfall on the way, and it could get intense. So talk us all through it.
Yeah, I'd be happy to do that. Yes, we have a special weather statement. This isn't for tomorrow. It's more so for what's happening on Wednesday. It's not necessarily the amount of rain. Doesn't at this point look like it's going to be qualifying for a rainfall warning. It has more to do with frozen ground that can't absorb the rain, some embedded thunderstorms, so locally some heavier amounts, some ice jamming possible, and areas where there's still snow melt adding to it. So localized flooding a real issue when we put even some rain in here. Because of these milder temperatures and the melt that we're getting into as well. Temperatures are mild right now. I mean, a little bit, okay, a bit above freezing. We're still holding at 2 degrees, 1 for Chatham-Kent. But those sustained winds from the southwest are so key here, pulling in some of those milder temperatures. Then they'll get much milder from where we are right now, but a little bit blustery, just some of the gusts tonight. The sustained winds really aren't going to be an issue, and then they kind of drop off. And then again, as we get towards Tuesday through the overnight into Wednesday, especially early Wednesday, I do anticipate that we'll have some strong winds once again in there. So add that too to what's happening on Wednesday. So here comes this next frontal boundary right here with some cooler air in place. Yes, some wet flurries possible or a light mix as temperatures fall overnight tonight. So we have that will move through. Not much here, okay, not much to write home about. So that just scoots on through into the late evening and early overnight hours. And then on Tuesday, we do get into some showers from time to time. Again, it's not so much the rainfall amount, especially tomorrow. Then it becomes more widespread, a little more significant with the periods of rain. And yes, you might hear that rumble of thunder as we're going through the day on Wednesday. Especially heavy for southwestern Ontario would be Wednesday morning, overnight and Wednesday morning, but still some showers after that. So this is just taking you through to midnight tomorrow night. See how there's hardly anything here at the beginnings of this system. When the real center of it gets here, we'll add this in, and that's when we're looking at more like 15 to 20 or even 25 millimeters of rainfall coming into southwestern Ontario. Overnight temperatures tonight, they should be mild. We might slip to 1, but I think we're going to kind of hold basically where we are right now. And then through tomorrow, a high of 9 degrees. Not raining all day. This is just some light stuff here. Wednesday, more significant rainfall. 13, however, but yeah, we got to pay for it after that. It's not that bad. Temperatures do slip, though, back closer to seasonal after that.
Yeah, that 13 degrees is wild. Thanks so much, Colette.
You're welcome.
And thanks to you all for watching. We'll see you back here tomorrow night.